You walk into the living room. Late afternoon sunlight is filtering warmly through the glass, casting a gentle golden haze across the floor. Over on the side table, right next to the window, sits your Budgie's home, and it's framed by this stunning, lush arrangement of broad-leafed indoor plants. You probably set it up that way on purpose, right? Those vibrant, sweeping greens create a natural, tropical oasis. It makes the whole corner look like a peaceful piece of nature brought right inside your house. To you, it looks vibrant, alive, and honestly, aesthetically perfect. You walk past it, maybe smiling at the calming harmony of nature and your pet living side by side. But right next to those wire bars, an invisible, silent chemical warfare is unfolding. Without a single sound, without a single drop of warning, the delicate breathing tissues of your tiny companion are being exposed to an ongoing botanical assault. You think you've created a slice of paradise, but what if the very plants decorating your bird's airspace are slowly suffocating its life away? Most plant lovers and bird owners operate under a deeply comforting assumption. If something is natural, it has to be completely harmless. We just assume that because plants make oxygen and brighten up a room, they must live in total harmony with every animal around them. But here's the thing: avian biology works completely differently from human or mammalian physiology. Out in the wild Australian outback, budgies navigate a harsh desert landscape where plants are specialized, sparse, and heavily defended against herbivores. When we bring lush, hybridized tropical houseplants into our living rooms and set them right next to a cage, we're introducing foreign chemical profiles that an evolutionary blueprint just never prepared for. Most people never realize that standard household plants are actually chemically armed. They release invisible compounds into the air, shed microscopic dust laden with sap, and harbor damp soil microbiomes that turn a cozy corner into a silent health hazard. The danger isn't some sudden dramatic collapse. It's a slow, compounding erosion of delicate air sacs and metabolic pathways that hides right behind beautiful green leaves and serene interior design choices. The real tragedy of pet and plant styling is that our most dangerous arrangements always come from a good place. We just want beauty, care, and a harmonious home environment. We want our spaces to feel alive, breathing, and connected to the natural world. So finding out that your styling choices might be causing quiet, chronic suffering to your most vulnerable companion, it's a heavy, sobering realization. But this isn't about stripping your home of life. It's about uncovering the invisible boundaries of avian safety. Over the next few minutes, we're going to tear down the illusion of harmless indoor greenery and look at the exact botanical hazards that never belong near a bird's cage. Once you understand the physiological toll these arrangements take, trust me, you will never look at a potted plant the same way again. Before we decode the first hidden botanical trap, if you're someone who refuses to settle for surface-level pet care and really wants to understand the inner world of your animal companions, hit that subscribe button below. It keeps you connected to these deep-dive behavioral and environmental investigations, so you never miss a revelation that could quietly change the life of the animals you care about. Picture this. The afternoon breeze drifts softly through a cracked window, sliding past the thick leaves of that potted philodendron sitting right beside the cage. It brings this subtle, earthy scent straight into the wire enclosure. To us, it just smells like clean, refreshing nature. But to a budgie's hypersensitive lungs, it's an invisible chemical fog. Here's what most people don't realize. Bird lungs just do not function like ours do. We use a basic two-step loop. We breathe in, we breathe out, but birds have this incredibly efficient one-way respiratory system. It relies on a series of delicate, paper-thin air sacs that span almost their entire body cavity. Every breath they take is pulled continuously through their lungs, and because of this, they process every trace element floating in the air at literally double the efficiency of a mammal. And this is the part people miss. A lot of common indoor plants like ivy, Dieffenbachia, or ficus subsli release volatile organic compounds, microscopic pollen particles, aerosolized sap. We shrug off these low-level emissions without even noticing. But a budgie breathing that air directly next to the plant? They're experiencing constant low-grade irritation in their mucous membranes. The delicate lining of their air sacs gets inflamed. Their breathing suddenly quickens, their energy dips, and their immune system has to divert constant resources just to fight off an invisible chemical irritant. one that's floating across their perches every single second of the day. Lean in close and look at the smooth, glossy surface of a monstera or a pothos leaf brushing against the outer bars of the cage. To your touch, it just feels clean and solid. But here's the thing, plants are basically living chemical factories. They coat their outer leaves with epicuticular waxes, defensive alkaloids, and tiny needle-like calcium oxalate crystals designed specifically to stop insects and herbivores from munching on them. And a budgie's natural curiosity? Honestly, it's relentless. When a long, trailing vine drapes across the top of a cage, it acts as an irresistible invitation for a little beak. With a quick, casual stretch right through the wire gaps, the bird snips off a tiny piece of that leaf margin and tastes the sap inside. The biological reaction is just swift and merciless. Unlike our digestive tracts that have heavy protective mucus linings and slow processing speeds, a budgie's rapid system absorbs plant-based toxins straight into the bloodstream almost instantly. Those calcium oxalate crystals act like microscopic glass shards, tearing into the delicate mucosal lining of the crop and esophagus. It causes immediate burning, swelling, and agonizing pain. The bird stops eating, fluffs its feathers defensively, and begins a silent, hidden struggle against acute internal chemical trauma. And all of that happens just because a pretty green leaf was allowed to hang an inch too close to its home. This is the part people miss. It's watering day. You pour a generous stream of moisture into the rich, dark soil of the fiddle leaf fig standing guard right next to the cage. The soil drinks it up, smelling of fresh earth. It feels vibrant and healthy. But in that warm, damp underground world, an invisible fungal empire is waking up. Here's what most people don't realize. Indoor potting mixes packed with peat moss and organic compost are breeding grounds for microscopic fungi, especially aspergillus. When the soil dries out a bit and gets disturbed by watering or even by the breeze from a fluttering bird, billions of invisible fungal spores lift straight up into the air. And because the cage is usually right next to the plant to catch the light, the bird sits right in the path of it all. Inhaling those spores introduces a lethal pathogen directly into the warm environment of their air sacs. The spores take root and grow into fungal plaques that slowly choke off their breathing. It's called aspergillosis, and honestly, it's terrifying because budgies hide their sickness until their lungs are already compromised. It starts with a faint, almost unnoticeable click when they breathe, and it ends in total respiratory failure, all coming from the damp soil sitting quietly in the corner. Think about that classic interior design trend, placing a tall, woody indoor tree right next to a bird enclosure to anchor the room. They look great, they're sturdy and architectural, but here's the thing. Their internal vascular systems carry a heavy chemical defense, milky sap packed with enzymes and toxins. If a branch gets bumped, pruned, or drops a damaged leaf onto the top of the wire cage, it can leave behind a microscopic film of sap on the metal bars. And when your budgie climbs along that ceiling, its beak and feet touch the residue. Later in the day, as the bird preens its feathers, it transfers that oil and dust from its beak into its system, swallowing these plant toxins in tiny, concentrated doses. They react with the light, causing severe skin blistering, internal organ stress, and immune suppression. The bird starts showing a mysterious decline, losing feathers around the face or showing signs of liver strain while the owner searches everywhere except for the harmless tree standing proudly in the corner. During certain times of the year, indoor flowering plants put out these bright, sugary blooms that add nice pops of color to the room. And to a curious budgie peering through the bars, those vibrant petals and nectar spots look an awful lot like the wild seed heads and blossoms from back in its ancestral home. Owners often make the mistake of letting flowering houseplants trail just a bit too close, assuming that plants are totally harmless. But here's the thing. Commercial houseplants are rarely grown with animal safety in mind. Nurseries constantly treat ornamental flowers with systemic insecticides, neonicotinoids, and heavy chemical fertilizers to keep them looking glossy and bright for retail shelves. And these chemicals don't just wash off with a damp cloth. They soak right into the plant's cellular structure, saturating every single petal, stem, and drop of nectar. So when a budgie tastes that colorful little offering, it's not just eating plant matter. It's ingesting a concentrated dose of agricultural chemicals built to disrupt nervous systems, It can trigger sudden tremors, uncoordinated balance, extreme lethargy, or worse. That charming little flower sitting right by the wire turns out to be a chemical trap. When you look at all 5 of these hidden botanical dangers the air freshener fogs, the leaf poisons, the mold spores in the soil, the sap residues, and now these chemically treated floral nectars, the full picture starts to get pretty sobering. Each one is basically a collision between our interior design ideas and millions of years of wild evolutionary biology. But the danger doesn't just stop at physical illness. There's a deeper psychological line that, once crossed, destroys whatever sense of security your bird has left. Honestly, the most terrifying thing you can put in your Budgie's cage is a massive, floor-standing tropical palm or a dense ficus tree positioned so close that its sweeping fronds cast shifting, monstrous shadows across the cage walls all day long. To a wild desert prey animal, large, looming green silhouettes aren't cute decor. They look like the exact visual signature of an ambush predator or a hidden stalker waiting to pounce. When a cage is trapped in the shadow zone of a massive houseplant, the bird's prey brain goes into relentless panic. Every single time a shadow shifts with a light, its system floods with stress hormones. It's living in chronic, unyielding fear, trapped inside an invisible cage of dread, staring out at leaves that its ancient instincts perceive as a wall of silent predators. As evening sets in and the light fades from the windows, you walk back into the living room. You glance over at the cage and the surrounding greenery, but you're seeing the space differently now, kind of through the eyes of a desert nomad just trying to survive an artificial jungle. You notice the empty space where the trailing vines used to be, the safe distance kept from the soil, and the calm, relaxed posture of your budgie just resting peacefully in the dimming light. The illusion of a decorative plant oasis is gone, replaced by a much truer understanding of what it actually takes to protect a wild spirit indoor. Take a look around. What plants do you currently have anywhere near your pet's enclosure? Drop a comment below and let's talk about how to make sure your space is actually safe.